Hello everyone, and welcome to the Week 8 overview of English 1510, the online asynchronous. I'm going to be covering just a brief couple of things here at the outset, a couple of housekeeping things. One being that just remember, I had a question from a student in a class about the rough draft versus final draft grading. I had a few of you that the audio files, when they were turned in, still had some of those issues. So those should all be posted up. No one should have any memoir things waiting in the wings. And I am nearly complete with all the rhetorical analysis ones, and I've gotten, we've been back and forth, a couple of us on messaging, and I think the vast majority of those are spot on. There are some things I need you to adjust where your framing of the device is a little bit off, but your approach is correct. I think some of you are still mistaking a little bit what a device is versus the appeal. For instance, I have a number of you that have statements in a topic sentence that are referring to some variant of emotional appeal as a device, as opposed to that being a rhetorical concept utilizing pathos. Most of those, you're talking about things that are stated in the ad with voiceover narration. So those suggestions have been made on your individual summary and outlines. Remember, with the rough, the final, I will make commentary on adjustments on the final. The roughs sometimes, but I mostly go through those and look that they are formatted correctly. You met basic word count and those things, and they were submitted into peer review. So we're engaging with one another and looking for those specific items. With those, there were a few students where the commentary there in your peer reviews, some of you are incredibly helpful to your classmates with going step by step through those, and I think that is that's commendable. I thank all of you for taking those seriously and going through those step by step. And some students, the framing of rhetorical devices, you're just getting lost a little bit in giving the device, and then when you're explaining the appeal, you're giving me how the device is used. For example, for those of you who have imagery, I got a couple where there's imagery as the topic of a body, and then there's a celebrity spokesperson, whether it's a celebrity musician or actor or actress, or there's an individual famous athlete, and you're talking about those, and then you're giving me the individual examples of when they appear in there or the images appear. But remember that the thing to do with that is not just explain when that happens in those ads, but also explain why that's used, how it's supposed to appeal to that intended audience. Does that use of that image or that person make the audience think or feel something about the ad itself, or does it one comment that I thought was really good was the use of the athletic famous athlete giving the viewer the indication that the product, or making the intended audience feel that the product must be something that's a good product for this, because that famous athlete is the person advertising for that, and they would have used a product like this. That is along the lines of the intention of the ad, right? And that's why marketers and advertisers, they employ these strategies with these types of ads. So having said that, I do have a couple of you that have some pretty major adjustments that you need to make. It's not a lot of you, but it's enough to where the back and forth that we've had so far, I think it warrants adjusting that submission timeline. I want to make sure that I give you full feedback on those summary and outlines, so that you know in the adjustment of your wording. A couple of you have to fully readjust some of the framing, but some of you have to rewrite some of the major parts of the content there in a body paragraph or two when you're talking about the examples and their intended appeals. So in keeping with that, I have adjusted that final draft date till next Monday, so that everyone has not only time to review a feedback file on those for the summary outline, but also make those adjustments, and you're not stressed over having that overlap with coming up with an argumentation topic, summary, and working thesis that you were looking through for this evening. So far, more than half of the ones that I've seen, those are good topics. Go forward with them. Try not, I mean, I want you guys picking topics of interest to you. Try and stick closely to some of the things that are on that list there. If there is an individual topic that you want that's slightly off from there, I will make, if you've presented that in that summary outline, I'll make commentary. I'll provide commentary on there. And if it's something that fully needs to be adjusted, you and I will communicate about that. I've only had a couple where I see so far that they really need to be sort of realigned with some basic framing, just because you'll have a hard time finding actual research. There are a number of topics we could pick from, but finding actual peer-reviewed research in the databases, that's going to give you some support that you're going to find full articles on to talk about your topic and support claims. Could be difficult for a couple of them the way that you have them framed. So the adjustments are these. In week 7, which we're complete, coming to the end of there, it's the argumentation summing working thesis due on Monday the 14th by 11:30 p.m., but I've adjusted that final draft of rhetorical analysis for next Monday so that we're guaranteed to have all that feedback and clarification too, in case there's any back and forth with me. Then once I have those final drafts, I'll review those and make commentary on those if it's needed. And post that grade. I have all summary outlines for the most part on those done to be posted up, and then the summary and working thesis on argumentation. As long as you haven't picked a topic or haven't adjusted the topic at all on there, I should say, I didn't approve any outside topics, any adjustment of topics, unless you've broadly adjusted that. Keep moving forward with this for the preliminary points of support and the work cited. Those are sort of a simultaneous overlap. I want to see these summary and working theses so that I can make adjustment suggestions this week before you go on to completing this preliminary points of support and work cited. This should be the reading for this week. In week 8, each student should focus your reading just on the peer-reviewed articles you're finding through the databases for your topic. And what you're going to be doing there is, if you've done this summary and working thesis correctly, from the instructions on there, you essentially will have most of your outline or intro paragraph outlined for yourself. There'll be some adjustments you'll make, obviously, because you got some commentary coming back on those, but that essentially will be that piece, and then it ends in a working thesis. And the working thesis is going to be adjusted once these preliminary points of support are complete, because those are going to be the references to your potential subtopics that will be the body paragraph claims, right? If you're a student who has said anthropogenic climate change is a significant issue, I'm drawing from an example of one of yours, anthropogenic climate change is a significant issue that would be most effectively addressed by A, B, and C. You've offered 3 different things there. I didn't need those stated in the working thesis. It's great that you have them already, but those are going to become your preliminary points of support on this page, which will become potentially the topics of body paragraphs in the argumentation paper once we get to the outline the week after. I need the works cited page here that gives me at least those initial articles that you're reviewing so that I know which ones they are and I can confirm that they're in the database. Remember, nothing is going to be allowed that is not a peer-reviewed full-text article from the databases. Then week 9, this is obviously coming up on a vacation week. I've extended this into the Monday rather than Sunday for the outline, just so that everyone has the time between this one and that one of a week to go through those. Then you're going to have the week after where you're going to be start submitting other content on there as the outline due after the break itself, the Monday afterwards. So you'll have those 2 on there. The preliminary points of support Dropbox, it's giving you guys this template that talks about the framing of this, and it's pretty straightforward on here. You get topic sentence 1, 2, and 3. If you have your primary points of support that are referred to in a thesis statement, you will now be able to adjust that thesis statement moving forward. But state these in full sentences as though they're the topic sentences to body paragraphs. Again, going back to the anthropogenic climate change example, if you're talking about that, each one of these would be a declarative sentence that says, one of the most effective ways to deal with this is this, another effective way to deal with anthropogenic climate change is that, and so forth, or depending on what your topic is. And then on the works cited, remember that once you get this on here, you're going to move the cursor line above so the works cited page goes to the next page on its own. You're going to start your works cited page here of your initial 10 listings. Remember that they should be in MLA format. That means that you have last name, first name of author, and all that other content. But if you're going through the OCC databases as you should and be selecting for peer review full text articles, you already have citation links that are included. You can use those and copy and paste and put them in here. You'll just have to reformat. Remember to put them in alphabetical order, and then you'll have to reformat so that every line after the first for individual entries is a hanging indent. Okay, that's also covered in your textbook. So this piece is what most students have already moved on to for this week. Remember that this coincides with that summary and outline portion with the working thesis. The summary with working thesis portion. That gives you guys a breakdown of the main gives me the breakdown of what you're going to address in the body paragraphs there. You're also going to be looking at databases like Pro-Con as you're working through your topics if you're trying to find oppositional points to your statements. So those are in the OCC database. You have the option to look through those CQ Researcher and Pro-Con databases. That will help you to establish when you make a claim. You can you'll see in the outline in the week ahead that you have the categories for putting in your supportive statements along with oppositional statements, so you can address opposition in context. So as a reminder on these, on how you're going about doing that research, very simple in terms of how to find sources at your starting point. Library is linked right here to your home page. You can go, well, we could do a fake news one or climate change, and do a couple of these on here. And then on this, doing a general search will take us into the database. And then you can go over here and select both full text and peer reviewed and apply your filters. And once those are applied, you can start reviewing some of this content, reading through these. And as I said, the reading for this week, next, and the week to follow that are only going to be focused on your argumentation pieces. When you go through these, if we're looking at something like this, you can pick this article, review the full text online, and if you're going to cite this as one of your 10, you can click on the citation function here. You're grabbing the MLA 8th edition, and you'll note that you have the correct form if it includes the DOI here at the end. That's the Digital Object Identifier. This number should be linked at the bottom, but you'll take the entire citation here and put that onto your page. Remember, this starts with N, so this has to be alphabetized, and note how it is already set in the hanging indent. Depending on what software you're using, it may or may not keep that hanging indent when you're putting into your document. So you may have to reformat so they all have hanging indents. That means the first line of each entry will be at the 1-inch margin justification, and then every line after an individual entry will be hanging indent. So then the next one after this would start at the 1-inch margin again. Okay, so with these, I think that is about all that you guys need to know for the week. I have probably only another day or so without to get the rest of those files up. It will be closer to the weekend on the rest of them for the summary and working thesis, but that should not keep anyone from moving forward with the preliminary points of support and works cited. You're essentially doing the research and reading and formulation of these simultaneously, and then I'll watch for the submission of the rhetorical analysis final drafts. Everyone has all of their content for memoirs. I've received summary rights so far. I'm leaving that Dropbox open until the 27th. And then we'll be doing the argumentation outline when we return from the break. The drafting will go through one stage before the final one is submitted on there. And we will do a discussion board on the argumentation pieces. I just won't have anyone including their work cited in the submission on these. You'll just be doing the essay itself. Okay, points of argument. All right, if you have questions, let me know. Instant messaging envelope here at the top if there's anything that needs expedient response. It keeps us from doing these accidental threads in the email chains there. Okay, great work so far, guys, and I look forward to seeing the rest of the argumentation pieces.